do you see this line over here? So that's what I've been working on for a couple of months, and it's literally the most exciting thing that I've done. Well, at least recently. Uh, Now, the point is that this line, it's actually a port of a UI component library called Vuetify, and I managed to get it working with Python and Django. Um, so I hope you can still see my screen. So this is the definition of what seems to be a line. Um, I have a standard Django project, but it's using Django components. So that's a library. So you can define pieces of templates as components. So if you're familiar with React or Vue, then you will know what I'm talking about. And Django components helps with that as well. Now, so this, well, it's been a lot of work, but if you want to use it, then all you have to do is just install Django AlpineUI. The pronunciation might change, but the point is, it's spelled Django underscore Alpine, like Alpine, and UI. Could be possibly French pronunciation like Alpoint or something similar. So you would go pip install Django Alpoint, Alpinois. That's the first step. Second step, you add Django component, Django Alpine UI, let's call it Alpine UI for now, into your installed apps. You also need to have Django components as a dependency. And that's really all you need. And once I've done those two things, then I can already use all the components from the UI library. Now, here you see that I'm using components syntax taken from Django components. So in Django components, when you use a component, you go like component, name of the component, and then any slot if that's applicable, and end component. So here, I guess this is still part of the setup. So you need to include two components from the Alpine UI library to make sure that things work. One is the CSS. So this just hides away all the necessary style sheets that are used by the UI component library. Although it's just single style sheet, but for convenience, you just have to call this one component. And the next, there's actually like 4 or 5 JavaScript scripts or dependencies that are required for this to work. One of them is Alpine, so AlpineJS. So this is what it is. And then a couple of other dependencies that build on top of AlpineJS and make sure that we can use the logic from Vuetify in, Alpine system. And so once we have these in the head, let me show you how it works or what you get. So what's here in the head, the CSS and the JS. The CSS gets translated to this style sheet, and the JavaScript, you see that it converts to 5 or 6 scripts, One is for Alpine Provide Inject plugin, one for Alpine Reactivity plugin, one for Alpine Composition plugin, then the Alpine UI itself, and lastly the Alpine JS itself. And there's also a tiny script here that sets up the Alpine UI to work well with Alpine. But you see that if you want to use this package, you don't have to worry about that. You just use this Alpine UI JS component, and that's all for you. And so once that's in, then all components, before we get to components itself, so all components have to be inside Alpine UI component. So this just sets up the environment so that any component library components will work correctly. They what this is for example, is so that if you have a theming, so like different colors, color scheme and so on, then this ensures that things are loaded properly. It also loads up other stuff from Vuetify and so on. So just remember to always use this at the base of your project. So maybe at the place where you define body, if all the UI component libraries are or to be inside the body, then we could just wrap the entire body of the HTML with this Alpine UI component, and then inside we can happily use the components. Now, as you can see here, so this is just proof of concept, right? So I took the simplest component that there could be, which is literally just a freaking line. And I made it all the way from Vuetify to Python Django interface. So all the components. First of all, let's get up to speed on what I'm talking about. So this Alpine UI library, it built on top of Vuetify. Vuetify is a component library for Vue, and basically Vuetify, it adheres to the material design concepts, and it defines loads, possibly I think around 50, maybe more components. So like pre-made pieces of HTML, JavaScript, CSS that renders something meaningful. Like here we have lists, and you can see that. So if I were to use Vue with this, then I would use this template snippet inside Vue, and I would get this rendered. And let's see if we can find the divider. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, here you can see that this line here in the middle, if you can see my clicks, I'm not sure. That's the divider. And that's what we've managed to recreate from within Python and Django. So the point is that there's, as I said, there's plenty of components, and I will be building sort of port of them. So if we have here V divider, then the corresponding component here is A divider. A being for Alpine UI, since V is for Vuetify or Vue. So for most of the parts, When you see Vuetify's documentation and you see the name of the component and the inputs, then you can safely assume that that's also how this will work for the Python port. Vuetify has amazing documentation. It describes both the component as like how to use it, but also has a reference of all the things that can work with it. So here, for example, here we have the thickness, right? And opacity. So far I've been playing only with the opacity of this component. Let me just start quickly a server. So just to try things out, I'll try to change the thickness. So first of all, I'm gonna see, what's the interface for that. Okay, so it should be just a number. So in theory, if oh yeah, no, I never mind. It won't work because I need to pass this. Anyway, but the opacity does work. So let's just stick with that. So I'm not sure if you will be able to see that. Now we have line. Now we have thicker line. No, not thicker, darker. And if I set it to 0, it should possibly disappear. Yep, the upper one disappeared. And there's two of them because I have here one copy of the divider and here's another copy of the divider. So again, the whole point is that there is this input or property of the A divider component, and this property corresponds to this opacity setting or property in the documentation. And so that's how you can use these. Moreover, if you familiarize yourself more with Django components, then you will come across also this syntax, which is like property name, which we assume should be a dictionary, and a single dictionary key and corresponding value for that key. And we can, a single component can have multiple such key value pairs for a single object. So, like with this, I basically am saying that I am passing a property attribute attrs into this A divider component, and it's a dictionary, and the dictionary has two key value pairs. One is style, is margin 20, and the other one is class hidden. Although I don't know why I would set it to hidden, because now we won't see that. Possibly. Never mind. But the point is that, again, similarly to how things work with Vuetify and Vue, is that you can often pass down such attributes or HTML attributes to the underlying HTML elements. So when we now look at this, is it the first one or the second one? The second one. Yeah. So here you can see that the margin 20 and class hidden were applied to this underlying HTML element, the horizontal ruler HR. So again, this means that you have a lot of flexibility in making the components work the way you want to. Now, one thing which I have not tried yet, or is going too deep into slots. So with Vuetify, you often can pass slots to the components. Now with Django components, you can do that too by using a fill and end fill syntax. And these, I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Oh, it does. Okay. So basically, right now, I've set this default fill, and how this component works is that when you set the default fill, then whatever value is in there, it's sandwiched in between two dividers. So if I remove this one, maybe we might be able to see that, yes, so there's one ruler up and one ruler down. Yeah, and so again, so these slots, how you use this slot, again, will correspond or is meant to correspond to the slots defined in Vuetify's documentation. So again, you can use the Vuetify's documentation to learn how to use these components. And since I'm already here, then just note that the way we use this this library or this port of Vuetify, you cannot modify the CSS variables, right? Because so since we import the style sheet as already precompiled thing, then we can't really work with these variables. So in theory, you can figure out maybe how to do that. I'd be happy to to take up that addition into the library itself. Yeah. And then, although not shown here, components often also emit events. Maybe we can see or find some. Maybe for button. Yep. So these events, again, that's I still have to play more with this, but how I've designed things so far is that these events will behave similarly to Vue and Vuetify's events. Now, to give you an example, so if we look at AlpineJS, it has a method of creating and emitting and listening for events. So we have the $ dispatch, which sends an event up to outer components, and then we have the x on or at, like x on click or at click, which basically means that you are listening for and capturing those emitted events. Now, how AlpineJS eventing system works is that any component, or if you have a component, so something which is defined by x dash data, then any ancestor can listen for its events. So I'm not sure if we are gonna find a nice and quick example, but say if I had a button here. If I have a button here, then I can listen for the button on this component, no element. It's like one above, or I can even, I can have more. So the whole point is that I might emit an event here from the button, but I can capture it in any of the ancestors. Now, the thing is that in Vue, things work differently. In Vue, if I have a component, so here we defined it with data, and that emits an event, then only the immediate parent can listen to those events. And to bubble up an event from the immediate parent further up, the parent would need to explicitly re-emit the event. And again, only the parent's parent would be able to listen for that event, and it would have to process that event by itself somehow again. So instead of bubbling it all the way up, it only goes to the boundary of the parent component. And the thing is that some of the logic of Vuetify components is relying on this behavior. So to make things work, I've added also a couple of magics. We might be able to find them maybe here. Yeah, and one of them is called emit. So, AlpineJS defines $ dispatch, and when you use, or if you were to also maybe define your own Alpine UI components, then here we would find an emit. And emit is like the Vue equivalent of dispatch, which means that you call it the same way as dispatch, so event name and the data, but the event is dispatched only to its immediate parent. And how it works is that it's really only sent only if the parent is listening for the event. So only if the parent is has passed down a callback. So here in this example, you might have a component which emits an event click button. So it looks like this. And if the parent wants to use or wants to listen to this event, the parent has to define or pass down a property called on click button or on click button once. So there's more magics and like more customizations. Like for example, the components defined with this Alpine composition, they are isolated, so they do not have access to parent scopes, unlike regular AlpineJS components and more. So this is like all the changes, so that we can have something which works similarly to Vue's AI composition API, but defined only within AlpineJS. And so I recommend to have a look at the GitHub repository. So it's still work in progress. Any help is appreciated. But here we have a packages directory, and there we have also defined like the bits and bobs that this depends on. Um, so there's, as I said, like basically all of these correspond to the scripts, JavaScript scripts that we've seen that this relies on. And yeah, I think the best will be, I won't go too much into this in this video. Go have a look at these other packages in case you want to define your own components. And as a reminder, so this all is built on top of Django components. So also have a look at that. Cool. And yeah, so it's right now it's version 004. So it's basically 001. And there's been 3 bugs in that hour or two that I've released this. But the idea is to recreate bindings for a lot more of these components, so that we can build webs with rich user experience, or like interactive things, even if we use Python and Django. Yeah, I'm thinking whether to add even more, but I guess it's already been half an hour almost, so I'll just finish here. So in case anybody watched this video, let me know what you think, and yep, I hope somebody will find this useful. See ya.